Hi, I'm Caitlin, and this is Book Chats, and I'm basically filming this so I have an excuse to show off how cute my hair is today. And today I'm going to talk about Underwater by Marisa Reichart. So this book is one that I loved and I totally didn't expect to. Spoiler, this is my new favorite debut of 2016 so far. This is a book that was briefly on my radar when it was released, but I kind of just overlooked it. My library didn't have a copy, so I wasn't going to read it. But then one of my best friends read it, and she literally called me the minute she finished it and said, "You have to read this book, Caitlin, because it is the most relatable and personal depiction of anxiety that I have ever seen in a book." And so I was like, okay, whatever, and I put it on my list and I requested that my library buy it. And then she and I went to the North Texas Teen Book Festival about a month and a half ago now, and when we were there we got to meet the author, and she bought a copy and had it signed and personalized, and at the end I was like, I don't know why my library hasn't bought it yet, I'm waiting for them to buy it. And she's like, you should just borrow my copy. So super shout out and thank you to my friend for lending me her signed copy, because I finally picked it up this week and this book is so good. I don't really know how to describe this book in a way that is like meaningful and will help you want to pick it up and read it, because it's a really quiet book. We enter the book about 6 months after a huge event happened in the life of our narrator and main character, and that event triggered anxiety in her, and that anxiety has gotten so bad that for the past 5 months or so, she hasn't left her apartment. And so this book is a very quiet book. It's not very flashy. It's interesting because the event that happened that triggered her anxiety is one that I have seen as like an element or plot of multiple other YA books, and usually when it's a part of those YA books, that becomes the big selling point of the book. But this, I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is, because this book kind of intentionally doesn't tell you, and I think it's because the book is not about the event, it's about the girl and her experiences and what happened to her after the event. And so we see a little bit of the event in flashbacks, and we eventually find out her specific involvement with the event, but it's not the focus of the book. The focus of the book is our main character Morgan and how she deals with the aftermath, and specifically like how she deals with who she became in the aftermath and interpreting that with the rest of her life. So it's kind of a quiet book, but I loved it because it felt so, I guess, I have more than one friend who suffers from clinical anxiety and takes medication to deal with it, or has a therapist to talk about it with, and it's something that I don't necessarily understand. And so reading this book was like a window into that experience for my friends, and specifically a friend who recommended it to me was like, my experience is not this bad. Like, obviously that friend leaves her house, but it was like an echo of kind of the feelings that are associated with that. So reading it to me was a way to experience some of the feelings that my friend has. It was really, really interesting because one of the things I loved, so essentially the book opens and Morgan is shut in, and a new family moves in next door. It's a boy who's about her age and his mom, and she suddenly feels she remembers what it's like to be out in the world, and she wants to have it back. And so like reading that part of the description, you think like, oh, this is gonna be like a romance, but it's not really. It's not a book where a boy sweeps in and fixes everything and the girl changes for him. Like really, he's there as a reminder of what she is missing out on and what she used to have, but like every single thing in her life contributes to the journey she has during this book. She has a younger brother, and he's in kindergarten, and his enthusiasm for life and the world is impactful on her. Her mom is encouraging and strong and pushes her when she needs to be pushed and doesn't when she doesn't. She has a father who is not in the picture and who affects her life in interesting ways. She has best friends who she hasn't spoken to really since the weeks after the event that occurred, and their role and absence or presence in her life is part of the book. She has a therapist who comes to see her twice a week and who feels just, I'm so sorry. I'm explaining this book in a way that makes it sound really boring, and I'm sorry because it's really not boring, and I don't know how to explain it in a better way to you, but it is such a good book. Just the feelings and emotions that accompany reading this book, just the way that this character deals with her life is something that I really loved. I thought it was really wonderful, and it's a serious and kind of quiet novel, but I think it's worth reading if that's something that interests you, and I would highly recommend it. I don't know if it's necessarily a super summary read. Right now, this is my favorite of the debuts that I have read this year, and this is the 10th debut that I have read this year, and it is realistic fiction. It is not like an epic fantasy or this huge, unique, unusual story that you've never read. I think it's unique in the way that it portrays emotion, in the way that it portrays the character's struggles, and in the way that it portrays kind of the structure around her that helps her or doesn't. But if you want some serious contemporary that looks at anxiety in a very relatable way, I would highly recommend picking this up. I hope I didn't make that sound like the most boring book of all time, because it really, really isn't. And I would not have read this book if I hadn't had a personal recommendation, and I'm so grateful to my friend who did recommend it to me. And so I'm hoping that I can recommend it to you guys, and that if one or two of you picks it up after watching this video or hearing me talk about it, I will be really happy. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Bye.